Actually, what is biochemistry? Biochemistry is the study of the chemical aspects of life. All the components of life, or all types of living organisms, all their structural and functional features are subjects of biochemistry. In this opening figure, you can see the structure of a cell, which consists of outer envelope, then the cytoplasm here, which is semi-fluid in nature, then we have the nucleus here, then we have the nuclear envelope and other organelles around them. Actually, all these are subjects of biochemistry. Here, this is your syllabus in unit 1, Introduction to Biochemistry, Nature and Scope of Biochemistry, Biochemical Evolution of Organisms, Simple Molecules and these levels of organization, Miller and Ure experiment, ultrastructure. All these topics are being covered in this presentation, little by little at a time. What are the foundations of biochemistry? Biochemistry has, cellular foundations, chemical foundations, physical foundations, genetic foundations, and also evolutionary foundations. Actually, biochemistry is being founded on all these aspects. Here you can see how is an organism being formed. Ultimately, at the bottom are the atoms. You know that every matter in this universe is formed of atoms. And you know also that these atoms in turn are made up of electrons and protons and neutrons, which means the subatomic particles. You see atoms, different types of atoms in various proportions join together to form the molecules. The molecules in turn join together to form the organelles in the case of eukaryotes. Of course, in the case of prokaryotes, organelles are not there. Then the cells are there. In multicellular organisms, different types of cells are there in the organism. The cells unite together to form different types of tissues. So many types of tissues are there, and these tissues join together to form organs. Organs in turn form organ systems, and these several different types of organ systems form organism. So at the bottom of every organism is the atom. At the bottom of every organism is the atom and the molecule. See, from atoms to the organism. You see, this is actually a famous quotation from Francois Jacob. You might have heard of Jacob and Monod in molecular biology. This quotation is from Jacob. He says, with the cell, biology discovered its atom. What does it mean? With the cell, biology discovered its atom. You see, cell is the ultimate source of, ultimate unit of living organisms. You know, atom is the ultimate unit of every matter upon the earth. Just like that, cell is the ultimate unit of living organisms. So it is essential to study the cell and analyze its structure. If you want to characterize life, we need to study cell and analyze the structure of the cell. Otherwise, we will not be able to study biology at all. Look here, you are familiar with this figure. Just as a mason is constructing a long big wall by placing his bricks one by one at a time, the nature has created every multicellular living body by placing cells one by one at a time, we may say. But there's a difference. In our body, there are different types of cells. Sometimes the size may be different, sometimes the function may be different, sometimes the entire type itself may be different. Some of them may be living cells, some of them may be dead cells, but ultimately cells are the structural and functional unit of life. In this figure, you can see 4 levels of organization. You see, these are the different monomeric units. Nucleotides are there, amino acids are there, sugars are there. These monomeric units join together in various proportions to form the macromolecules, which are the polymers. For example, nucleotides make up the nucleic acids called DNA and RNA, while amino acids make up the polymers called proteins, while carbohydrates make up polymers. Some of them are called cellulose, some others are called starch, etc. And these macromolecules in turn may integrate with other molecules to form supramolecular complexes. For example, you know that chromosome is made up of nucleic acids and proteins. Chromosome is made up of nucleic acids and proteins. Here is another supramolecular complex. You are familiar with it, plasma membrane. It is made up of proteins and lipids and carbohydrates, etc. Mainly proteins and lipids, but a small amount of carbohydrates also are there. And here is the cell wall in the case of plants, which in turn is a highly complex structure consisting mainly of carbohydrate and derivatives of carbohydrate plus proteins, etc. And all these supramolecular complexes together in various proportions, in various ratios, give rise to the cell and its other components, organelles. The cells are basically made up of organelles. So a big cell which we see here is ultimately made up of so many supramolecular complexes. See, these are different levels of organization. When we study this topic, we should keep one thing in our mind. At every level of organization, new features, new characteristics, new properties appear, which are not there in the previous level. For example, when amino acids are joining together to form proteins, new features appear for the protein which were not there at the level of amino acids. It is just like you people. When only one of you is sitting in a class, nobody will know it. But when many of you are sitting, when a team is sitting, people may sometimes maybe even 100 meters away may know that some students are sitting there in the class, because the property of a team is much more than the property of an individual student. Just like that, when monomers are joining together to form polymers, when components are joining together to form larger complexes, new properties arise. Very important at every level of organization. That's why as the levels of organization increases, the complexity of properties also increases. In the previous figure, we found so many levels of organization are there. At each level, new properties are appearing which are not there at the level of the previous components. For example, living things are reproducing. Living things are reproducing. It is a property of the organism. Can you show that property in the previous levels? Or living things are consuming food. Living things are consuming food. It's a property of the organism. Can you show that property in any of the previous levels? No. So this property, this feature is very much important. And sometimes we say we have a disease, maybe fever, maybe headache, maybe chest pain, maybe stomach pain. When do we say that we have a disease? Very simple. When our cellular machinery is affected, is damaged, is not functioning properly. Sometimes it may be caused by a pathogen. Here there is a spelling error. There should be pathogen. Sometimes this error, this damage may be caused by a pathogen which may be a microorganism. Sometimes it may not be caused by a pathogen. For example, now why I am talking to you like this, because of SARS severe acute respiratory syndrome, and it's actually caused by coronavirus. This coronavirus is causing COVID-19. It's a pathogen. Here this is the HIV affecting the human body, AIDS. Both these are caused by pathogens. What about the cancer? Here you can see cancer cell. It is not caused by any pathogen. What about atherosclerosis? Here you can see artery on the heart wall. In this part of the artery, a good lumen is there through which blood cells are moving, blood is moving. But you can see here the yellow colored deposit is there. It is pushing the innermost membrane into the lumen of the artery, so that the space available for the blood flow is reduced. We call it atherosclerosis. On a long run, it may lead to heart attack. In all these situations, the normal cellular machinery, tissue machinery, we say living system, is not functioning properly. Then we say we have a disease. That means to study a disease, to find a treatment, we should know biochemistry. That is one of the most interesting applications of biochemistry in medical sciences. Here in this figure you can see different types of cells. What you see here is plant cell. What you see here is animal cell. You know that there are so many differences between plant cells and animal cells. Can you just point out the difference? See here, you can see a cell wall in the case of plants. Can you see any cell wall here? No. That is one of the major reasons. And can you see something called a vacuole in the case of the plant cell? There is a vacuole, a large single vacuole in the case of the plant cell. But in the case of animal cells, either vacuoles are absent or several smaller vacuoles may be present. You have studied those things earlier. You see, there are so many differences between animal cells and plant cells. At the same time, there are so many similarities also between animal cells and plant cells.